Coming up right now, the newest episode from Carr, Gwyn, and Ode on Three Pagans and a Cat.
That which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. Welcome to Building Your Book Correspondence, the 10th episode of Three Pagans and a Cat, and the 3rd episode in our Building Your Book series. Today's opening is courtesy of 8th century alchemical and hermetic text Tabula Smaradina, authored by Hermes Trismegistus. You may call me Ode.
And you may call me Carr. And I didn't even know we had stuff from the 8th century. I'm impressed.
You may call me Gwyn, Merry Meet. I'm Ode's mother.
Shout out to our new Patreon supporters, Tally Kozoil Thompson and Stevie Thompson. At special request from Willow Lackett, we will now be reading a very long book title. Please enjoy. A Complete System of Magic, or the History of the Black Art, showing the original of magicians and how some of them were made kings, as Zoroaster, Cadmus, and many others. How the ancient magi who studied philosophy, astronomy, etc. were induced to turn wizards and sorcerers and deal with the devil, and how their conversation began. The different shapes assumed by the devil in his first appearances to magicians, and whether he is or has been allowed to assume a human shape. Who first practiced magic as a diabolical art, and its progress among the Egyptians and Phoenicians, by whom it was first openly encouraged, and its present state. What the black art really is, the various manner of its practice in different parts of the world, and of the doctrine of spirits, how far it may be supposed there can be intercourse between the superior and infernal beings, and whether the magic art now subsists, how far the devil may be raised by magical operations, and whether it is by their own power or by mutual concert with the devil, the whole compiled from the best authorities, ancient and modern.
I guess they were a little concerned about the devil.
Do you think? A trifle.
How many times was that mentioned in there?
At least half a dozen.
At least. Oh my
The
gosh.
funny thing is that it actually is a complete system of magic. Is the actual title of the book.
Yep.
Or the history of the black art.
Or the history of the black art.
Yeah, so-
Black-art.
Does
Yes,
it include eating chocolate?
I don't know.
think so. Okay. Just slide that Harry Potter reference in there.
Well, hey, might as well.
So
I love the dead silence. It's like, put some crickets in there.
So that brief digression aside, today we're gonna be covering correspondences in the Building Your Book series. So far, we've covered grimoires ancient and sort of the very beginning stages of building your book.
Dedicating your book.
Yep, dedicating your book.
Protecting it.
Yep. So now we're going to be getting into some of the first pieces of real content that you'll want to put into your grimoire or book of magic. And we thought correspondences, because they're sort of a very basic magical practice, are a good place to start.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of them.
Oh, many,
gosh.
Holy cow,
So
there's
many.
Yep.
And they don't always agree, which
Yeah.
can make it confusing for people.
Yeah. So we're going to start with what correspondences actually are. Gwyn has some definitions, and then I'm going to sum it up when she's done reading them.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think that means what you think it means.
Well, a correspondence is a direct relationship to or with something or between two things. Synonyms for correspondence include correlation, agreement, compatibility, conformity, similarity, resemblance, parallel, and accord. The idea is that when you use a correspondence, you are using something that is in accord with what your intention is.
Right. Correspondences, at a very basic level, are the symbolic connections between things and concepts. Those connections enable sympathetic magic, where you do something to one thing to have an effect on another thing, to function. Whether that link is psychological, like it only exists because you think it does, spiritual, like it only exists because there's a connection between this world and another world, or an innate energy quality, is up for debate and is going to vary wildly based on your traditions and personal beliefs.
Mm-hmm. And I like what one of the articles I found on ThoughtCo, which is one of our favorite places to go find information. Everything has a signature of sorts. Mm-hmm. And so that is where many of these correspondences are drawn from, is that each thing has its own energy, its own spirit, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The theory of correspondences and of sympathetic magic generally or is derived from the theory of interconnectedness. That idea that there are indelible, if invisible, relationships between things, either in this world or between worlds. So the idea is that something which has a correspondence to an idea, like I believe apples have a correspondence to health and longevity, something I do to an apple has a relationship to that concept, and I can draw those concepts down into whatever my practice is involving the apple.
I followed that.
You followed that?
Carr is a good reference point for this because he doesn't do magic.
Right.
So,
at least at this point.
Right. So if it makes sense to Carr, hopefully it makes sense to other people.
I think it's also important to note that there are correspondences for practically everything.
Oh, everything, yeah.
Out
there are some sort of common correspondence mediums, stones, plants, colors, numbers, elements, times,
days of the week,
yeah.
The planets.
But hypothetically, anything can be a correspondence. If you connect that object, that physical thing, with a metaphysical concept, that's a correspondence.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
The other thing that I think it's worth noting is that divination actually uses correspondences pretty heavily, because divination is the process of interpreting symbolic images.
That's correct, yeah.
And so the meaning of a divination is as much defined by the reader's frame for that, for those symbolic connections, as it is by the literal result of the divination.
Exactly, because a lot of it does come down to intuition, but you have to have a starting point, a correlation, a correspondence from which to build from.
Yep. And the Rider-Waite deck, which is the basis for most, if not all, but most tarot decks.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted you to say the word tarot in there, because
Tarot, yeah.
Rider-Waite to a lot of people
Is very vague.
Right,
Yeah.
like,
What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
just
Tarot.
4 months ago, I wouldn't have known what the hell that was.
right.
So.
That's a good point.
So the Rider-Waite tarot deck is
There we go.
is the basis for a lot of modern tarot decks. And of course, the Rider-Waite deck itself still exists, and you can get the modern and revised versions or the original versions. But those have a lot of hermetically derived correspondences that make up their meanings. That's where those meanings come from.
I think it's also important to note that various traditions can also have their own correspondences and meanings to what they do and what they use for their rituals and their spellcraft.
Well, and even in divination, Gwyn uses a green tarot deck. I think it has a Rider-Waite base, but it diverges from it at some points. The images in the Rider-Waite deck and the Green Witch deck vary significantly.
Even the names of the suits are different.
And there are, the green tarot deck involves a lot of plants, and the correspondences for those plants are listed in the card meanings.
That's correct.
So that I think it's important to bring that information with you when you do a divination. And not just for tarot, because like you do scrying.
I do.
And the images you see are not always literal. Sometimes they're, symbolic or metaphorical.
And I have to interpret those symbols, and it does help to have a frame of reference based on a correspondence.
That being said, where do correspondences come from? This, I think, is an interesting subject, and there's not, hard and fast rules about this, especially because correspondences do vary from tradition to tradition, place to place.
Right.
But I've identified what I think are 5 sort of basic origination points for most correspondences.
Okay.
So the first is folklore and mythology. If there is a symbolic item used in a piece of folklore or a folk tradition or the lore or mythology, that creates a correspondence, especially if it's from your tradition. So, I have a correspondence between apples and health and longevity, because in the Norse tradition, Ithun has the apples of immortality, which she presents to the gods, and that's how they maintain their long life, is because Idun has the orchard and presents those apples to the other gods.
I wonder if that's how we came up with the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Could be.
If that comes down from that.
I don't know. And I think a lot of
sayings
exactly
do come from the lore and the traditions from our ancient ancestors.
And I don't think that Idun's orchard is the only orchard with those
No, I believe
connections.
Brigid.
Yeah, Brigid also has a
Maintains
magical
an apple orchard.
Right, yeah.
So these things are not always, isolated events.
Right.
I think a lot of correspondences come from those directions, especially the tradition-specific ones. Mm-hmm. I think some correspondences come from the natural or scientific qualities of the item itself. Mm-hmm. For example, copper, which is considered a magical conductor. I think it's probably considered a magical conductor because it's a very, very good conductor of heat and electricity.
Right.
Exactly.
That's why it's used in wiring so extensively.
Right.
So I think that's probably where that magical correspondence comes from.
From
It's
observance.
physical, from observance, from its physical qualities.
Makes me think, like, in the future, if, like, fiber optics will then have a magical
Right.
correspondence,
And I
because
think- and that's
replacing a lot of the
Exactly.
copper in things.
And and that's I think where a lot of the tech witch, modern witch stuff comes from, is people looking at like our modern stuff that didn't exist in the olden days,
Right.
being like, well, carbon fiber's strong, it's probably correspondent to something.
Right, and
Gotcha.
there are techno-pagans out there who their entire practice is based
is
on
all-
technology.
Yeah, so that exists, and I think that's based on just the way correspondences work. I can see no reason that wouldn't be valid.
Right.
Exactly.
Another origin point for correspondences is etymology or history. You look at the planet Mars, which is associated with warlike qualities, through its namesake, the Roman god Mars,
Right.
and the Greek god Ares. And Ares' name derives from either ruin or help, depending on your etymological preference.
Right.
And Ares is a warlike god. But so the planet itself doesn't, aside from that connection to the Roman god of war, the planet doesn't have like a naturally warlike quality, but it has a correspondence to war.
Which is interesting because we have so many movies based on Martians attacking us. So we've taken that Roman, Grecian,
That
gods,
Hellenic god.
right? Yep, and
That concept of war,
and
aggression.
right, and because we stuck that to the name of a planet,
Yeah, the
we
one that
now
happened
take-
to be closest to us.
right. We now take that planet and go, well, it's obviously going to attack us. So
Yep.
it's very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, we went there.
Well, yes, we got there before they...
Yes,
Well, as far as we know,
Right.
we got there before they got here.
that's right.
So some correspondences, I think, are just rooted in, if you dig down far enough, you'll find that there's a historical reason for those
Gotcha.
correspondences. Some correspondences, I think, come down to the fact that humans are pattern-recognizing animals.
Yep.
That we look for patterns in things. So, for example, gold, the metal, the sun, the astrological body, the color yellow, and the fruit oranges are all symbols of rulership, abundance, and power because, I think, they're all very similar. They all present very similar visuals.
Visually. Yep.
And so humans look at those things and say, aha, these things are connected. Whether they're connected on like a spiritual or energetic level is sort of beside the point, because humans looked at them and said, these things are connected, and now in our sort of cultural consciousness, they are.
And I think
But because we have put that intention into them for so long,
Oh, yeah, I
that
think...
I think
I
that
think it
then
grows it.
transfers
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, I
Right.
think-
So
I think-
even if an orange didn't originally mean that,
Right.
because for so
because
long, people
millennia
have,
of subconscious
right,
belief.
have gone into it that
Yep.
that orange now has that intention.
Yep.
Or that
I agree. I
correspondence,
would
yeah.
agree with that. I'd also say that it could come down to experience. If someone made that correlation back in the ancient time where, with the orange.
Right.
And in practice, with whatever they did in practice, it encouraged this belief, and then it would be passed down
Right.
into the collective
Or we
conscious.
just had a king somewhere who really liked oranges.
That's
Right.
possible,
And because
too.
he ate them a lot, we just
Exactly.
assumed
That
that,
made them
oranges
divine.
were divine.
Exactly. And that's information we'll probably never
Never get.
retrieve.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
So-
I think all of these are possibilities for reasons for these correspondences. I think it can be down to experience. It can be down to belief and intention, observation.
Right.
All of these things.
Well,
take
and,
part.
and so then the last route, I think, for correspondences is UPG. That's unverified and unverifiable personal gnosis. which is just you
I
have an
believe it.
intuition about a thing.
I believe it, so
yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
So, like, word on the street is Loki likes chocolate. That's pure UPG. There wasn't chocolate in Scandinavia.
Right.
In ye olden days, there's no mention of chocolate in the sagas. This just comes out of, people interacting with their god and identifying, okay, well, he likes it when I offer him this.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and we've got the same thing in my tradition is the Dagda really likes coffee.
And that's pure modern UPG.
Right, yeah.
But those things become correspondences.
And they're perfectly valid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Just not as widely spread.
Exactly.
So just
That
because...
would be maybe something that would be an example of something that is in a tradition, especially if it's a modern
Yeah,
tradition.
especially, the reconstructed traditions,
Right.
like heathenry and
Celtic
the Celtic
Reconstructionism.
Reconstructionism. And to be clear, not all Reconstructionists accept UPG. Some of them are very, very hostile to UPG and to sort of any syncretism or evolution of the religion at all. But as I have gone into extensively on the blog, I have a different opinion.
Right. And that's that blog post was Ode to Breathing?
Yeah, that's Ode to Breathing, where I go into it in rambling detail.
But has, connected with people that blog post has.
Apparently,
So
yeah.
Somebody randomly retweeted it. You posted it, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, something like
And somebody
that.
randomly
It's
retweeted
been
it
longer
this
than
week.
that even.
I think it was right after Convocation that I posted
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so it's been a bit.
Yep. So one other thing, since we're talking about building your book, now we've talked about all these different things
Right,
for
we've covered sort of the basics
Yep.
of correspondences, what they are, because I know not everybody's going to be familiar with,
Right.
especially the people who are new to the process.
And
which-
people can find, because there are so many tables and there's so many
can
different
be
types, it can be
daunting.
incredibly daunting and overwhelming to even consider, how do I bring this into my practice,
Right.
into my life, into
my
my
book.
spellcraft, into my book.
And we're going to link to a bunch of resources for these.
a whole bunch. It's going to be a big blog
Yeah,
post.
it's going to be a big blog post. We're going to try to break them up into some semblance of order.
yeah.
Ode is going to do that.
I'll create some kind of organization out of the mess.
Keep in mind, you can use these or you can not use these. These are ones that we've done a lot of research on and found to be at least as close to accurate for our traditions.
Right.
Individually,
They make sense to us.
individually and as a family. And then,
But that doesn't make them the be-all, end-all
Right.
of correspondences.
right, exactly. So
Exactly.
'Cause at the
these
end
are
of
just
the-
our suggestions, but take them as that. They're just suggestions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because at the end of the day, if you don't have a personal correspondence between the thing and the concept, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yep. So, but because we're talking about building your book, I think we ought to talk about how do you put correspondences
Yeah,
into your book.
how to organize them.
Right.
Because you could end up with just an extremely long list of words that don't make any sense
Right,
when
exactly.
you glance at them, which wouldn't be very useful.
No, not at all. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
know
let's
that-
talk about correspondence tables.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that for myself, in my own grimoire, I have broken them up by color, by fragrance or essential oil,
Right.
by plant,
By medium.
by medium. That's how I've done it, is by medium. Some people do it alphabetically.
Right, which I can see how that might be valuable if you've got. I think alphabetically would be better for like a small list of correspondences. I think as that list extends, alphabetical becomes less practical.
Right.
Some
My
people
preference
do it by intent.
Yeah, that's my preference. My preference is to start with intent and then break it down inside that intent into mediums. So like I would.
Okay. And then
I would
do you
have
do alphabetical within the medium?
probably because
Okay.
I'm myself, because I'm a parody of myself.
It's the OCD in you.
Yeah.
So I would say I would have like a prosperity heading for that intention, and then inside that I would have minerals, and then an alphabetical list of minerals related to prosperity, and then plants, an alphabetical list of plants related
Right.
to prosperity, etc.
And it really does depend on what you want to work with and what works best for
Right,
you.
if you're never going to use plants in your practice at all, then you don't need to add those to your
Exactly.
correspondence tables.
For instance, I only really use herbs, plants, and oils with a very few stones, and then colors. So those are the correspondences I have listed in my grimoire.
Right.
I don't need other things
Well,
in
and
there.
since I'm so new to this and I'm creating my grimoire from scratch, usually using the Velocity Rose version of how to do it all online.
The digital version.
The digital version.
The cloud book.
Yep, Google Drive.
Yep.
So again, if anybody wants to follow along as I'm building this, feel free to email me at
Request.
car@threepagansandacat.com.
Request access.
Request access, and I'll add you to that. I can see myself adding all of the correspondences, whether I use them or not, because I don't know what I'm going to use.
Fair. That's fair.
And so
because you have no idea.
Yeah, so mine's going to be probably way more intense than somebody who's been doing this for a long time, because I have no clue.
Right.
And I can see, talking about the Velocity Rose version of the way of doing things, is I'm going to have one entire book that's just correspondences. That's all it's going to be, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
As I've been doing this research on them, I mean, I probably sent 14 to 17 links to Ode going, here's the things I've looked at that I thought really would work well for me. So I could see this being a very big list. And I don't want to probably just list what the mineral is.
Right. You want to also
I also
list
want
its
to
properties.
then list its properties and that kind of stuff, because I don't know them off the top of my head.
That's where the Velocity Rose method, which I'm going to call it from now on.
Right, yeah.
Velocity
VR.
Rose method.
It's the,
The
VR,
VR
method.
method.
VR method.
That's where the VR method is really useful, because you can include links.
Right, yep.
So you could, you could do what I do and have like a prosperity heading and then minerals and then gold, right?
Yep.
And then gold could link to another section further down the book that is just about the gold mineral.
Right, yep. Yeah.
Which would enable you to sort of short form the tables, but have that information accessible.
Right, yeah.
So again, it really does come down to what's going to work best for you. If it's intention with correspondences listed, then that's what you want to do. If it's by element or by, by what the correspondence is, and then including what its intention would be, you can do it that way. That's how I do it. For instance, I would have the flower listed or the oil listed, and then
bergamot.
Bergamot. And then I would have all the different things that I could use bergamot for in a spell or in a ritual. But it does come down to what is going to work best for you.
Right. I find listing by intent more useful, just because it's easier to browse when I know what kind of spell I want to do.
Right.
When I because for the most part, I'm not just browsing my book like, what can I do today with what I have in my cupboard?
Right.
I'm going like, okay, today I want to accomplish X task, and for that I will need blah, 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 blah.
Right.
The other thing you can do as you're building your book and as you're building your magical cabinet even is maybe you want to start with just what you have available.
Right, yeah. And this is I think is relevant to the point we made earlier about how anything can be a correspondence, not just like the traditional correspondences.
Right.
If you have a tissue, you probably have a correspondence between tissues and something. If to you tissues mean health, you can use that in a spell. If to you tissues mean sickness, you can use that in a spell.
And hopefully tissues come in various colors. So you could even use color correspondences in it, in combination with that. It really does come down to what works best for you.
Gotcha.
And if you've got to be creative with it, I mean, that's what magic is, baby.
That's right. And that is the truth, because, a lot of times people could dish out a crap ton of money for all of these different tools and herbs and oils and things like that.
And sometimes that stuff is nice to have.
It is nice to have, but you don't. I think this is sometimes a discussion that Ode and I have. You don't have to have all the tools and the knickknacks and bric-a-bracs and things to have ritual and to perform spellcraft, because it really does ultimately come down to intention and what it is that you have in your home.
Right.
Available to you if you need something for focus for a spell.
Right. Gwyn and I disagree slightly on this.
Okay, so tell me your disagreement, because I then want to weigh in.
Okay.
So I, Ode, prefer to do magic or ritual with things. I prefer to have physical objects that are not just focuses for me, but homes for the spell to live in.
Okay.
You know, like, and I've mentioned this before where, like, I have this impression that I got out of nowhere that that spells and magic create sort of little tiny, limited, focused consciousnesses. So when I create a spell, I'm creating a very tiny, sort of sentient being and telling it, do this job for me. Especially if it's like an ongoing spell, I'm saying, do this job for me repeatedly until I say you can stop.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe this is a hospitality thing, but I feel like it's extraordinarily rude to do that and then say, and you don't get to live anywhere. You have to just be free-floating and exist in the void. Like, I want to give that little tiny thing I've created a space and say, this is yours, you live here.
That also probably helps you to focus on it daily as you see that
exactly.
thing
Every
over
time
and
I
over
see
and over
it,
again.
I reinforce to myself,
Right.
okay, we're doing
And so
this thing.
it does reinforce it to you, but it should also then reinforce that magic as well, because you're then putting more intention into it. By
Putting more focus.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I can see that.
Now, for me, when I started out in Wicca, you know, I did the traditional training through studying books. I used correspondences. And in some ways, I felt very restricted by the rules, if you will, the rules and regulations that I gleaned from all these books on how to do spellcraft, how to do ritual. Eventually, over time, I found a mentor who was a traditional witch. She came from a background of both Bruja and Strega witchcraft. She was also a Gnostic. So she came at
She was very eclectic.
She was very eclectic. And so she came at witchcraft and spellcraft from a very different perspective. And she was my mentor for 2 years. And for 2 years, she said, if you need tools to focus, if that is what you desire to use, then by all means, use them. Use the color correspondences, use the tools and the candles and the things that you have. But spellcraft is truly about transforming your will into reality by using your own personal energy or the energy allies of plants or the earth or whatever you have around them. So for 2 years, she spent this time teaching me how to craft and send and create intention strictly through mental imagery and spellcraft through...
Gwyn's spells require no props.
Exactly. I use correspondences because I like to have candles or oils or colors to help me focus on something if I need that. But I can cast a spell with absolutely nothing. I can just focus my intention, send it out into the universe, and know it will be done. That is because that is something that my mentor taught me. Not all witches believe that, and that's fine, which is why my whole philosophy is if you need tools, if you want tools, if you want to use the correspondences, if it speaks to you, by all means do so. But you don't have to have those things if you don't want to.
So why do I have 2 kitchen cabinets full of stuff?
Because I like to use correspondences.
Okay, so the person who needs them
has fewer stuff.
Has fewer stuff
things
than the person who doesn't need them.
I know, it's a weird dichotomy. No, it's
I actually, for someone who's like, I need a physical home for my spell creature, I have very few actual
so
items.
it's just, that's why I wanted to hear this discussion because I thought that was the way it was going. But like, you have so much more stuff.
You do. You have a lot of herbs, especially.
I have, because I particularly enjoy working with herbs and plants and oils. That is just, and candles.
But even if you look at our altars, your altar has more stuff on it than all of probably the 2 of our altars combined.
Yeah.
Again, it's because I enjoy it, not because I need it.
Right.
Okay. All right.
That's what it all comes down to. And that's why I always say it comes down to what your preference is, what works best for you. Do I have to have that stuff? No. Do I want to have that stuff? Yes.
Okay. So before we dive into actual correspondences,
It's time for reviews.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Good job,
You've been working
Carr.
on that.
Yeah.
well, it's stupidly stuck in my head.
Still?
Oh my gosh!
I
It's
can't
ridiculous.
say anything. Gwyn and I have been singing it to each other.
We have.
We'll just be in the kitchen and then just be like, time for the review.
Yep. We will. It's kind of sad, actually.
So the review today is a little different from the reviews we've done previously,
Right.
in that it is not a pagan store,
Correct.
and also in that it is a personal friend of mine.
Yeah, but so let me explain this because I'm actually the one who's like, we need to review this.
Yeah. You and Gwyn were both pretty much like, okay, let's go.
So let's explain why we are reviewing this. Wow, English is hard today. We're reviewing this because, A, both Ode and Gwyn use the product.
Yep.
So,
And I've been using this product for a while, since it started existing,
Yeah,
basically.
since
couple of
inception.
years, really.
Yep.
And the other reason is there was this big event that was going to go on in
Yeah.
a major city
Yep.
that literally a
Imploded.
week before it was supposed to happen,
Which was this weekend.
completely imploded and didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
And lots of
people were
controversies.
displaced.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And because this was not a pagan event, I'll put that
No,
out there
no,
right now. This was not a pagan event. It was a different kind of event, but
But it just dissolved.
right.
And people lost a lot of money.
Right. And so the person that we're going to be talking about and her products was going to be there as a vendor.
Yep. She
And
bought a
so-
vendor table for
Right. So paid
significant
a lot of
money.
Yep, paid
shipped
for
a bunch
plane-
of product there for
for-
significant money.
Yep,
flights
paid
and
for plane
hotels.
flights, all that kind
Yep.
of stuff. So somewhat we're trying to help her out. But other than that, I know that you all love the product.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
both
And
do.
we talked briefly about reviewing it maybe previously, but since this just happened, we thought,
Right.
okay, well, now's the time.
Yep.
But it's actually really appropriate for an episode about correspondences
Yes, it
because,
is.
like I said, anything can be a correspondence, and that includes your makeup.
Yeah, that's right.
So, we're reviewing Dragonsworn Cosmetics, which is owned, operated, and produced and run and completely managed by my friend, Cal, who I have known for almost a decade now, entirely on the internet, because that's the person I am. And she started making nail polish a couple of years ago for herself because she can't handle the smell of conventional nail polish.
And didn't
Neither
you say
can I.
she's sensitive to some of the ingredients?
She's sensitive to some of the ingredients that are in a lot of nail polishes, yeah. So she started making 5 free nail polish, which is nail polish that doesn't include a lot of the really harsh chemicals that are in
The formaldehyde
Yeah.
and all that.
that are in some of the standard nail polishes. And the other reason she started making her own is that she was dissatisfied with the colors available in 5 free nail polishes that were on the market. So
Yep.
she just started making her own, and then we, her internet friends, begged her to let us buy them, and eventually she caved and put up an Etsy store, and
it's history
and it has
from there.
and it has snowballed from there.
Right.
But so she started making these nail polishes, and I have ordered, and I am not kidding, 50 of them, I'm pretty sure.
All different colors.
All of them different colors.
all of them beautiful.
They're extremely vibrant colors. I've got them in reds and greens and blues and gold. I've got like 3 different golds.
Now, to be fair, she does have some paler colors.
She's got some pale colors. I've got some of those too. I've got a white. I've got 2 whites. I've got 3 whites. I've got a white, a different white, and a white with blue sparkles in it. A lot of them do have sparkles in them, either very like fine glitter or very large sparkles.
But I like the vibrancy of the darker colors, the different shades of
Yeah,
the various
she's got some
colors,
great reds.
beautiful reds, beautiful purples.
She's
and
got some
blues.
really sophisticated blacks. If you're into black nail polish, she's got a black nail polish called Jack that it's black, but it has like a blue undercoat
Yeah,
that
and so
becomes
when
like
you see it in the light-
that becomes like a
Very cool.
prismatic sheen. It's
Yeah.
really fascinating.
Yeah, she really does know how to just make color that is outstanding.
If this was the 80s,
You'd
I'd
have
be
been
buying
all
the
over
high-
it.
you'd be
ordering
all
the nail
over it.
polish.
Yep.
If she did eyeliner, I'd be ordering
Well,
the
here's the
eyeliner.
thing.
Yep.
She does eyeshadows.
Yep.
She does lip
And
glosses.
they are mineral eyeshadows, so
Yep.
you could do them as
Yep,
eyeliner.
and
but
they're
careful.
very vibrant colors. They're gorgeous. You can use them as an eyeliner. She has lip gloss. I think she's just started. She has
body butters.
Oh
which,
my God, the
Listen,
body
you
butters.
guys, I hate putting things on my skin. And I mean that pretty much universally. I don't use lotion. I don't wear makeup. I don't even like to get wet unexpectedly. Like
You don't even like to get wet expectedly.
I just resign myself to it. I don't like to have textures of any kind on my skin. So I was really reluctant to try the body butters when she started making them.
They're amazing.
They're so good, y'all.
And the scents are
smell so
beautiful.
nice.
And when I got the one that I have, I think it's called Sarah.
It's called Sarah. Yeah,
And
Sera.
And it has kind of a lemon base to it. It's just wonderful. And the first time I wore it, I was at work, and someone said, "What are you wearing? It smells like spring." And so that's kind of been its, for us, it's been
smells like spring.
It smells like
Yeah,
spring.
it's
It's my favorite.
and they're
love it.
not overwhelming scents.
No, they're not.
On the body butters. They're very sometimes very elaborate. Sometimes there are a lot of like notes involved, but they're really like mild and pleasant.
But they don't fade quickly.
No, yeah, you put it on. I usually just put it on sort of my forearms because of my skin
Aversion to-
situation. Because textures, bleh. So I just put it on my forearms and I can smell it all day and it's great.
It's wonderful, and it's pleasant. It doesn't overwhelm. She also is
And even with my texture situation, like it's smooth enough and it like doesn't leave any residue behind on my skin, so I'm okay with it.
And she also has started making soaps that correlate with the body butters.
Yep. Yeah, she
So-
started making soaps. There were a
The
year
woman
ago.
is just like she is so
She's
industrious.
yeah, yep. And she's got so there. If you go to Etsy, the Etsy shop, Dragonsworn Cosmetics, which is where you can get these.
And let's say it slowly.
Dragonsworn Cosmetics, and the link will be in the blog post. But if you go there, you will see these are fandom-based products, fandom-based cosmetics.
You don't have to be.
Gwyn
a fan
has no
in order-
idea what any of them are.
Not a clue, but I know. I just go through and I go, "Ooh, that's pretty," and I get that, and I fall in love with it. Every single shade, everything.
You got
I've
a
tried.
manicure once in Shepherd.
Yes, I did. I got it, and it was gorgeous. It's this beautiful kind of a ruby red.
Yeah, it's a ruby.
Absolutely
Yeah, it's really,
stunning
really
color.
nice.
I use the lip gloss. I use the body butter. I want to try the soaps.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. You don't have to be a fan
Once
to
I
enjoy
started buying Dragonsworn Cosmetic nail polish, for a while there, I was buying 5 a month,
Yep.
and I was wearing them
Daily, pretty much.
every single day
There
for
were
like
sometimes
a
you'd have
year
one
and a
on
half.
each nail.
Yep.
One different color.
The only time there was not nail polish on my hands was when I was transitioning nail polishes. And they last a very long time. I would wear them with an undercoat, and I need to be clear, you do need to wear an undercoat with this nail
And
polish.
the top coat.
Well, the top coat is for longevity, but you need the undercoat because the pigments in these nail polishes are very, very strong, and if you don't wear an undercoat, some of them will stain your nails.
You will stain your nails.
So wear an undercoat, you won't have to worry about that, then put on 2 layers of the nail polish and then a top coat, and it will last you for 2.5 weeks easily without chipping.
Absolutely. And the colors are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough
Very,
good things
very
about
vibrant.
it.
Vibrant.
And I have several of the blacks that I just absolutely
And they're all
love.
distinct.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all a little bit different. I don't know how she does it.
Magic?
Could be.
Maybe it does fit.
Maybe it does fit. They're all just slightly different shades, or they have a different kind of glitter in them, but they're all good for your nails.
Yep.
All of the body butters, the lip colors, the eye colors,
are all
everything
extremely...
are safe for sensitive
Many
skin.
of them are vegan or organic. You have to check because some of the nail polishes I know use pigments that are animal based. Insects. It's insects, just so you know. A lot of red pigments come from insects.
Right.
Which I guess a lot of people don't know, but that's a fact. So
That is the truth.
so many red things are not vegan. But she does have some vegan nail polishes and such likes that you can find. And I have in the past worn specific, because I have so many colors to choose from, I have for ritual gone and painted my nails with specific shades to use the correspondence, or
Nice.
I've got several of her body butters, and so some of those scents have correspondences for me, so I use those for certain situations. So to draw this back to the subject at hand, if what you have on hand is nail polish, and you know a color correspondence that relates to you, you can use nail polish. That'll get the job done.
Absolutely.
And just so everybody knows, she does have a section on her Etsy store called The
Oh, yeah.
Wicked and the Divine.
Yes.
And so it's like Dionysus, Persephone.
Those are also technically
the Morrigan.
those are also technically fandom, because The Wicked and the Divine is a comic, but
Right.
it's a comic about gods.
Right.
So
Hey, Marvel did it, so,
yeah.
you know.
So she has a section for the Wicked and the Divine,
Yep.
which has a lot of nail
Gods.
polishes that are named for and inspired by various gods.
Yep.
You can order a custom color from her.
Yeah.
So if there's something very specific you want that she doesn't have, you can make a custom order for her and she will put it together for you.
So yeah, basically breaking it down, beautiful colors, great scents, good for
prices.
your skin, great prices,
Yep.
and excellent customer service.
Yeah, Cal generally right now she's a little behind because of the whole
Debacle.
imploding debacle.
Yeah.
But usually she, in my experience, has been that she gets stuff shipped out within a couple of days.
She's very good. She's
Yeah.
very good, and it's just worth it. If you wear nail polish, eyeshadow, body butter, use soap, you
Yeah.
know, whatever, she's got you covered. I think she's also got a few fragrances now, too.
I think she does.
she's
I think she
working
started
on.
moving into those.
Yep,
Yeah,
she started working on fragrance oils.
She's
so
constantly
she's got those
expanding.
too. So just check it out. You will be pleased.
Yep.
That's it for the reviews.
Nice.
Very nice,
Thanks.
classy.
And I nailed it. It came right in in
That's
this.
right.
Somebody quit talking because I was waiting for a
I know.
breath.
I could tell. That's why I was trying to get all that out and done.
Sometimes Carr gets this look where it's clear that he's just waiting for us to shut up.
Like, shut up. You've said it again and again. Now it's time to stop.
So now that we're out of the reviews,
Right.
we'll
Yes.
get back into the content of the
goodness.
episode.
Which is
Correspondences.
Yeah.
So we wanted to cover some basic correspondences for you guys.
Yep.
Especially those of you who maybe aren't familiar with correspondences already, don't have a list handy.
Right. Although there will be tons in the links.
A lot in the
that's a
blog. But we wanted to cover some basics just to give you guys a starting point.
And I think we found some that are a little different than you'll find everywhere. And that's why we're including some of these.
Yeah.
Is because
Yeah, we found
they're-
some interesting
Right. Yep.
some interesting tables.
Yep. So the first one I found is all of the months. So it's broken down January through December,
Right.
and then there's an any month
Oh, interesting.
at the end. Yeah,
A catch-all.
So, yep, a catch-all. Yep. And so it talks about what the plant name is, what the common name is, what the less common name
And
is.
those are of the moons.
Those are the moons.
Yep.
Yep. For that particular month. What the basis is for the SBOT. For that particular month. So what your goals should be, what your actions should be, and what kind of magic would be good to be
That's
performed.
interesting. That would be really interesting to look at, at the beginning of the month.
Right.
And say sort of, okay, what should set up a timeline.
So we're coming into May, right?
Right? Yep.
So the goal would be focus on your career goals. The action would be make a major change in your life. And the magic would be candle magic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So, and then there's an element to it.
Okay.
So for May, that would be fire.
Okay. Oh, I can see that because
Right,
Beltane got the
Beltane,
Fire
yep.
Festival. Yep.
And then,
Got the summer
of course,
coming
the
up.
colors are then red, orange, and yellow.
Uh-huh.
Fire. So
Yep.
we get that in there. The gemstones would be amber, Apache, tear, ruby, and garnet.
Okay.
Again,
Yep.
kind of in that same...
Several of which were, mentioned in the Beltane
Yep.
episode as correspondences to Beltane.
And then the herbs are cinnamon and mint.
Okay, I think cinnamon was mentioned during the Beltane episode as a correspondence too. So that's interesting to see that those definitely correlate.
Well,
Yeah.
cinnamon oil is actually considered a hot oil. So as far as, among people who use essential oils for things other than just spells, but
Right.
for
aromatherapy.
aromatherapy and stuff, it is considered a hot oil, so that makes sense.
Is that is that because it irritates the skin?
Because
Or
it can have kind of a heating
a burning?
sensation, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I also would think because when you eat cinnamon candies, they're really hot.
Right.
And and then you do
Yeah.
have to be careful when you're
Sensitive to the mucous membrane.
Yeah.
you do have to be careful when you're using any kind of cinnamon capsules, cinnamon oil. You always want to use an oil carrier,
Right.
That type of thing.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I wonder if that's why I've seen cinnamon corresponding to prosperity, and I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Now, whenever I use cinnamon for some kind of a spell work, I always make sure I coat my hands with
coconut
some
oil.
kind of coconut oil first.
Gotcha.
Because I always dress my candles
Right.
with essential oils, which means as I'm concentrating on the intention, I'm covering the candle with oil, but I always put coconut oil on my hands first.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
I found an element wheel.
Okay.
So, which is done by the cardinal
directions.
and the ones that are not cardinal
the
directions.
cross cardinals, I guess.
Cross cardinal directions.
The intermediaries.
So, which I thought was kind of cool. So, it's north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest.
Right. The full compass
The
rose.
full compass, yep. And then I figured I would just kind of cover the north one since we live in the north.
Exactly. And that's,
North-ish.
right.
Michigan.
North is often a sacred direction.
Right,
So,
yep.
yeah. There are a lot
So-
of traditions where you can only perform your rituals if you're facing north.
So the element would be earth. Mm-hmm. The animal would be bear.
Intriguing.
Yep. The holiday, obviously, winter solstice.
Right.
The growth phase is seed stasis.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
The moon phase is dark moon.
Okay.
Makes sense, right?
Yep.
Magical activity would be focusing inward, working on self or inner worlds, and earth magic, which makes sense. It's cold out usually
Yep.
in the north, so you would tend to,
Yep.
do that. Other activities would be reflection and rest. Mm-hmm. And the astrological signs for that are Capricorn and Sagittarius. I knew the Capricorn because that's what I am. But interesting. So north, they think cold.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And so they've associated things with it that are cold.
Yep.
I'm just going to make a quick look at south.
Just glance at south.
Yep, and it's I'm exactly
Heat.
right. So fire,
Activity.
right? Yeah, yep. Activity, awareness, high energy, empowering, that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
So we'll definitely include that.
Yeah.
That actually came from a Druid website.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah. Now, for an example of listing correspondences by the element and then what you might use it for, I have a short list. I'll just pick one thing out of it.
Right.
It's for it's on Wikipedia.com and it's listed under fragrance correspondences.
Okay.
But apple, because we mentioned
Right,
apple
we talked
earlier.
about apple.
So this just says apple, and then what you would correspond it to is anything having to do with agriculture.
Okay.
So if you were trying to grow herbs or a garden, or if there was a drought or something, and you wanted,
You were worried about your local
you were
farmers.
worried about your local farmers or your own farm or
Right.
your own crops, whatever. That apple would be a good correspondence. Autumn, anything having to do with the fall or autumn.
Right. The season.
Healing, because apples are associated with healing. So if you have any kind of healing spell or ritual you wanted to perform, you would want to include apple. Hearth, home, immortality, love, and then the two sabbats that are connected to apple are Samhain and Yule.
Oh, interesting.
And apple, obviously if you cut it, I believe it in half,
yep.
you'll see a pentacle. So I think a lot of people will
Yeah,
use...
but in the seeds.
Yeah, in the seeds. So I think
Next
a
to
lot
star.
of people have used apples during Samhain for protection symbols and for protection magic during
Yeah, I think
during Samhain.
I know we did this when I was a kid, but I think probably everyone has done that thing where you cut an apple in half and then press it into paint and then make stars with it.
Yep, we've done that. You can also, a very popular tradition for divination during Samhain using apple is to very slowly peel the apple all in, make sure you have the peel all in one piece, and then drop the peel into water, and it's supposed to form the letter of your whoever it is you're
Of
gonna
your
marry.
intended.
Of your intended.
Interesting. That would be terrible if you had like an apple peeler core slicer,
That's true.
because the peel would be the entire apple.
Yeah.
What
Which is
why-
letter did it make?
Which is why you
Mysterious.
would not want to do it with some kind of machine. Obviously, you focus on your intention with a
I'm gonna marry a
with
spiral.
a knife, and you get your apple peel and drop it in. But anyway, that's it's part of Samhain
Interesting.
traditions.
I wonder if you were sufficiently good at peeling apples if you could hijack that.
Right, yeah.
You probably could.
I want to marry Adam. I'm gonna make an A out of this.
So some of the other correspondences we found are days of the week,
Yep.
colors.
Yeah. Color correspondences are
I use a
very,
lot of color correspondences.
very common, and there is going to be some variance between them because different cultures have different associations with color.
Yep.
Exactly.
So-
For instance, in in India,
White.
brides
Yeah.
wear red,
Yep.
and
Right.
white is for funerals.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
which is completely opposite of what we would
Western
understand
culture.
in Western
Yeah.
culture.
Numbers.
Yeah, for numerology.
Yep.
For numerology, you might say, like, okay, I'm going to use apples, but for numerological significance, I'm going to have 3 of them or something.
Right. Yeah. Trees,
Right?
which is huge in Celtic because
Right, more than anything else. Really,
right, because
probably.
we're really into tree months.
Right.
Well,
And
and
so
for
those are a big deal.
it would make sense for green witches and hedge witches as well, because green witches and hedge witches do a lot with plants and trees and nature and.
And the website that we'll list that has the trees on it actually talks about what then if you have a wand from that tree,
What its best uses
what its
are.
best
that would be
uses are.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I
It'd
think
be
that's
interesting
kind
to
of
have
cool.
a wand from each kind of tree.
It would.
Yeah,
You know,
I
have
think that
just like really purpose
so that makes
intended.
me think, right, if you have very
Yeah.
purpose intended wands.
Well, remember I found a stick yesterday on our
Yeah,
walk
we went
in
on
the
a
park,
we went on a walk.
and I found a stick, and
We intended it to be.
It just drew it.
Yeah.
well, it was
As we
like-
were leaving,
as
Gwyn
we
was
were
like
leaving.
saw it on the ground and was like, "Wait, pause,
and
halt!
it was like
I need this."
drawing to me. I was drawn to the stick, but I don't know what kind of trees we were.
We have in
surrounded.
that area.
We
Okay.
can find out.
We can
Yeah,
find
because
out.
I would love to.
We know
to
what the park is, so we can
Yeah,
find
because
out.
I'm going to make that little guy into a wand. It's perfect.
It's a good length. It's got nice.
So-
It's perfect.
I'm going to interrupt here to talk
Okay.
about
This has been bugging Carr
Okay.
all day.
well
2 days.
more than 24 hours.
Okay, so
now.
it's gonna we digress a little from correspondences
Right.
now for
Yeah.
a beef.
Yep.
Right.
Or beef. Yep. That sums it up.
If you are going to run an event and have it open to anybody who wants to come, particularly a pagan event, say, for
Beltane.
Beltane, and you put a Facebook thing out saying, please come to this pagan event, at least respond to people when they show up. This is what happened to us. We drove to this particular park to do this Beltane event
Yep.
with a local pagan group,
Yep.
and we walked up. Nobody looked at us.
They didn't even make eye contact.
They didn't acknowledge us in any way.
I personally said hello.
And he got
One
about
guy-
15 seconds of eye contact.
One guy looked at me and nodded,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
And at that point, even though I'm an outgoing person,
Yeah.
I'm done with you.
We felt I
Carr
think
is the
we
most
all felt
extroverted
very-
person in our family, and he was not impressed.
There was a definite feeling of
We talked about this in the car so we went for a walk. We went for a walk in the park because we
Right.
didn't want to waste our
we didn't want to waste our time.
waste our
And
drive, and it's a nice park,
It
so we
was
went on
a
a walk.
beautiful day. So
And then we we went back by, and it still felt sort of
Very closed off.
yeah.
very closed off and unwelcoming.
So we got back in the car and we went home.
Yep.
And in the car we talked about the feeling we got, and Gwyn and Carr both felt much more rejected than I did. The impression
Rejection wasn't for me.
right.
unwelcome.
Right.
Is what
Apathy
I would
is
say.
what I got.
Yeah. What
Unwelcome is what I got.
and they were both very offended, I think, by the whole
Well,
interaction.
This is the second time this has happened with
this group.
particular
Yeah, this
group.
is the same group that Gwyn and I tried to find at the coffee
co-
spot.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's-
you can
we
listen
get
to
into that, I think,
adventure.
I think it was the first
That was
one, wasn't it?
no, it was monikers and
Metaphorical
metaphorical
spaces,
spaces. That's where
okay.
we got into that.
Because
But,
we were talking about being in the broom closet.
Right, gotcha.
So this is that same group that we couldn't connect with that time, and we couldn't connect with them this time, even though we actually found them this time. My impression was that, and this may be because I'm coming from a heathen direction, but in heathenry there's the concept of the inner Garth and the outer Garth, and the inner Garth is your people with whom you keep frith and whom you protect from outsiders, and the outer Garth is everybody else. And I got the impression very much that they've already established their in-group, their inner Garth exists, and they've closed the door and they're guarding those
Then don't
those
invite
walls.
other people.
Yeah, and so I got the impression that maybe not intentionally, but I got the impression that they've set up guards on those walls, and they have forgotten to open the door when they have invited guests.
Right.
Okay, so now I think now that we have
Well,
aired
yeah, I've
this,
done that. Yep.
now
We're
that
moving
you've
on.
aired this, we will move along, but we will just reiterate, if
Right.
you're going to have an event, a pagan event, and you're going to make it open to the public,
Make
or
sure
to
you're
other,
actually
make
open
sure
to
you're
the public.
actually open.
And,
Yeah.
And welcoming.
discuss that with your group. Decide, are we actually open to
Right.
new members.
And maybe, have one or two people who are kind of designated the lookout for new people.
Right.
And are the ones who make the introductions and draw people in.
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
find your most extroverted member.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Or somebody who can pretend to be extroverted.
I can
for a small
pretend.
time.
I can pretend to be extroverted
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
for a
short
purpose
for a short time.
when it's my job.
time. Right.
Exactly.
So going back to tree correspondences, I thought I would read one.
Yeah, you want to
Okay.
read the what is it coming up? Hawthorne?
Hawthorne is actually the one that's coming up, so that's the upcoming Celtic tree month is Hawthorne.
Right.
So Hawthorne is a masculine tree.
Okay.
Interesting. So hazel is a feminine tree. Oh. I didn't know that those had
Genders?
gender specifics, but so Hawthorne is assigned to the Ogham letter H, sacred to Aquarius and the wind lord Vashon.
Okay.
And its magical properties are Hawthorne wands open insight, provide psychic protection, encourage creativity, aid in the development of self-confidence, patience, and purification. The wood is often used to make charms for banishment of evil spirits, leatherworking, concealing magic, chastity, male impotency, and fairy magic.
I think that's very
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think those are, if you're going to,
Right.
do stuff with trees, then know about what you have. So, like, I have a staff that's from an apple tree
Yep.
that I'm currently letting dry so that I can then carve.
Yep.
And we need to go back to that park and figure out
What
which. I think
tree?
it was probably an oak or an elm.
We'll have to
maybe,
check.
Yeah.
but we'll have to check.
But so the apple is a feminine, right?
Okay.
And apple aids in the propagation of skills and is often used in love or fertility magic, promotes peace, harmony, and visions.
That's that Dagda.
Right, yeah.
got going on.
Right, exactly. So I think it's very interesting, though, that trees have those kind of aspects to them. And it's good for you to know them, especially if you're going to use any kind of tree stuff, whether it's a walking staff or a wand.
Right.
These are important things. And,
Or-
like if you look at the Dagda, he had a club.
Right.
That one end killed and
Out
one
of
end
healed,
healed
yeah,
and brought you back to life.
resurrected.
Yep.
You can also, and talismans as well. Remember, we do have a talisman hanging above our
Yep.
door that was made from, I believe it was oak and I think it was mistletoe. Was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, mistletoe. Oak and mistletoe.
Pure curiosity. Are ash and elm listed among your trees?
Ash, yes. Elm, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This just interests me because in heathen tradition, according to the sagas, all of humankind are descended from two beings named Ash and Elm who may have been trees.
Interesting. So, correspondences.
Right, yep.
Kind of a
Yeah.
cool thing.
Yep. And so we'll definitely link to
Yeah, we'll
that,
be
'cause
linking
that-
all of
Yeah.
these and many more.
So there's also the planets,
Right?
which we won't get into because we've already somewhat talked
Right.
about Mars.
Days of the week.
Yep. We talked about that. briefly.
Webmineral.com.
Yes. It's a very
If you
thorough
have
website.
not found webmineral.com and
You're missing
you
out.
work with any kind of minerals, yeah, you're definitely missing out because it is probably the most complete
It's very,
listing
very thorough.
of minerals I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's, very, very thorough would be an understatement. It's got everything from its correspondence to its
Scientific properties,
what it's made up of.
Mohs scale,
Right, yeah. So please dig into that and we'll link that as well. Gemstones
Yep.
and their meanings and properties. We talk about that a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I like rocks.
Yes. Ode is our resident expert on gemstones.
Not an
and
expert.
rocks
I'm an
and-
enthusiastic amateur.
Okay.
I'm going to insist on that.
Okay, our rock enthusiast. This has been since childhood, early childhood. I
Yes,
can
when I
vouch for this.
destroyed the driveway digging rocks out of it.
That's correct.
Perfectly normal rocks, but they were big or interesting shapes,
But it
so I
actually
needed
comes,
them.
It comes in very handy because I primarily use herbs and oils, and Ode primarily uses
Rocks.
and various types of
dead
gemstones or dead things. So we can, we kind of can help each other with various questions and ideas.
Yep. I actually found one you didn't know about.
Oh.
The rainbow obsidian.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
A stone that Ode did not know.
right.
They exist. That's
do
because I'm not an expert. There are lots of stones I don't know about.
But an enthusiastic
But Ode
amateur.
loves obsidian.
I do. Yeah.
And
The
so-
various forms of obsidian.
So the fact that there is a rainbow obsidian was, I think, pretty cool. It's a dope looking stone, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's got iridescence.
I think I want one.
Yep.
Because it has a mineral inclusion.
Yep. And so its uses would be emotional healing, inner work, meditation, and purification. A lot like obsidian.
Similar to, but more emotionally focused.
Right, yep.
Yeah.
So we'll link to that definitely as well. Herbs.
Yep.
Herbs.
Herbs.
Yes, herbs. My favorite.
Yep.
And the list I found for that is huge.
Enormous.
Oh my God, there are so many herbs. That's why I like to grow herbs.
Yeah.
Because you really do ally yourself with the plant, especially if you're growing it yourself. It's a wonderful
That
kind
said,
of
I don't think it's a
symbiotic.
bad thing to buy.
Oh no, I didn't
Herbs
mean
somewhere.
to.
Especially
Okay.
if you can't grow it in your climate.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
or
I didn't mean to imply that.
If you
Okay.
have a black thumb.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I did not mean to imply that. I'm just saying, for me as a green witch, it is very satisfying to be able to grow these herbs, to be able to develop these relationships with them, to use them in my spell work
Right.
and in my rituals. But I have a cupboard full of dried herbs that I have both grown myself and purchased.
Yep.
So I clearly do not have an aversion to purchasing
Right.
Herbs. I do think it's important to go to someone.
Know what your source is.
Know what your source is. We are very fortunate in that we have a store near
Arts and Craft.
We have Arts and
nearish.
Craft. Let's just name it. We have
that
Arts and Craft.
Arts and Craft that has an extensive apothecary and owners who know what they've got. And
They know their shit.
They know their shit, and
Yeah.
they are wonderful people.
Yeah.
So
You can go to Arts and Craft and have no idea what you need and say, I need something for a prosperity spell, and
they'll be able to give you some assistance.
they'll figure it out for
Yeah,
you.
Paul and Pat are amazing.
They are,
Yeah.
and I'd like
Very
to say
knowledgeable.
they also ship. So if you they're
So if you don't live in our area,
exactly
you can still get from Arts and Craft.
artsandcraft.com. It's ARTES and
Yeah.
Craft.
craft,
Yep.
CRAFT.com.
Yep.
And they have their apothecary listed
Yep.
by
Right,
letter, I think. So.
Yeah.
This website that we're going to send you to also lists which ones are poisonous.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which I
yes,
think
you
is
want to be
very
very careful.
important.
Critically important
Know
information.
what you're working with.
Right, yeah.
Keep your banefuls distinct from your non-banefuls.
And have gloves. If
Yes,
you're going
always
to
handle
use-
them with gloves. In fact, you should also wear a face mask, probably.
Yep, with some of them, yeah.
A protector.
Be very careful of using if you intend to use, like, there are a lot of what would be considered traditional witchcraft herbs that are actually
baneful.
quite dangerous and baneful, and you would want to be very careful. Know what you're doing before you even attempt.
There are some of these that you need to be careful even touching, which you should certainly not ingest. So,
Belladonna is one of
yeah.
those.
So be certain you have all of the information you need. Hit up WebMD before you touch anything
absolutely.
that might even possibly be baneful.
And have your baneful's herbs set separate from your other herbs. I don't currently
the
have
same
any
way we perpetually reinforce fire safety, I'm going to perpetually reinforce baneful
herb
safety.
safety. And this includes the oils. If you get baneful essential oils, you want to keep them separate from the rest of your herbs in your magical cabinet.
Keep them under lock and key.
You
probably.
should. Actually, I don't have currently any banefuls. If I ever do get any, they're going to be going into a locked box.
Yep.
That is separate. Just because
And we don't even have children in the house.
No,
it's
it's
just a precaution.
it's
No,
just a
you're our
precaution.
child.
Well, technically that's true.
Technically, yes,
You're
that
just
is
old.
true. So anyway,
old
I'm just
child.
throwing that
Just
out
ancient.
there because I know
Antiqued.
that we do have a lot of people who listen who are either new to the craft or getting back into the craft
Yep.
after a long absence. So just be careful, know what you're doing before you touch anything
Yep.
that is considered baneful.
Yep. So the cool thing I think about the herbs is some of this you already have in your cabinet.
Yeah, some of them
And-
are just spices.
Right, and
You,
some of them
you would be surprised.
some of them are just plants you have. A lot of people grow African violets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
Right?
yeah, I have one on my altar.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, it's
Yes.
still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still chugging away.
Yep, kicking. It just
So-
doesn't have any flowers right now.
Yep.
You know, its gender is feminine.
Okay.
Its planet is Venus. Its element
Carr always
is
looks
water.
at me when he talks about the genders because he can sense me rolling my eyes.
I know. And then It's correspondences are spirituality protection.
Mm-hmm.
It promotes spirituality when it's grown in the home.
Yeah, and I have those both on. I have that on my altar for both those reasons.
Right.
Suspiciously, Gwyn has been growing African violets since shortly before we all started doing this.
I don't know, maybe.
So anyway, we'll make sure we link to that because I think that a lot.
It's
of
a very comprehensive list.
And the good thing is, it's like
and like
this will help you.
bay leaves, you probably have in your cabinet.
Yes, absolutely.
This will help you to get started on your path
without having to
shell out money.
Exactly.
I mean, you should be able to do this, especially if you're like a green witch or a hedge,
hedge witch,
or a kitchen.
Yep.
You should be able to do it all without having to buy anything extra. Really, I mean. So,
you might need a few extra things if you want them, but like, a mortar and pestle, those kind of, things to have.
But frankly, some people just have those in their kitchen.
Exactly. Right. So, and the thing
now,
I'd also like to throw in there real quick about having, for instance, the African violet on your altar or something like that, or using the spices in your cupboard. It's great if you're still in the closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're still in the broom closet, you use these things, nobody will know.
Yes. I am going to say, if you have a mortar and pestle you use in your kitchen, maybe don't also use it for spellcraft.
No. Yeah, my mortar and pestle is strictly for spellcraft.
Unless you're using it purely for kitchen witchery.
Exactly.
Let me cover a couple more really quickly because we are starting to run out of time.
I'm not surprised. Well, technically speaking, we don't have a time slot, so we don't...
That's true, but I do have to keep it under 100 meg.
I know.
I found a place that has seasonal correspondences, which I thought were kind of cool.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, spring would be sunrise, summer would be noon, autumn would be dusk, and winter would be sunset. Go figure. But it has different stuff for all of it, so we'll make sure we link to that because I think it's cool to have for this quarter of the year, here's some stuff that kind of fits. Essential oils.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Got a big list of those.
Yes, I
Huge
have
list.
correspondences for that. That's gargantuan.
He gave me a look. I don't know why.
Wikipedia also has a large section not really well filled out of correspondences by intent.
Yeah.
So
Wikipedia hasn't been regularly updated in a bit.
Right.
But the resources that do exist there are still good.
Another resource that's really good is Herbal Riot on Tumblr.
Yeah.
It has not been updated since 2015, but what is on there is very good, and that will also be included in the links.
And then one other one that I want to cover that I didn't know about is correspondences for tarot.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm not a tarot reader, but I didn't know that there are actually herbs and oils that go along with each card, as well as rocks.
Yeah,
stones that go along with each card as well, which I think is kind of cool. So we'll link to all of those.
There are some witches who will use tarot cards in their spellcraft, and it would basically be, you would get a deck that is specifically for that if it was something that you were going to have to burn or give away or bury or something like that. It could be expensive, but I know that there are some
unless
witches...
you can make your own tarot
Unless
deck.
you can make your own.
Yeah.
So I know that there are some witches who use their tarot decks in that
Now,
way.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but I do just want to really quickly touch on something.
No, go ahead.
Okay. You may find that a lot of spells use pennies as a component. Most of those, especially those that were created before 1980, are using pennies because pennies are copper, or at least they look copper.
They used to be copper.
Previously, pennies were about 95% copper and 5% zinc. In the 1980s, they switched that up. Now pennies are 95% zinc and plated in 2% copper. Do pennies still work as a copper correspondence, or are they just a zinc correspondence? Because copper and zinc have different qualities. Copper, as we've talked about, is conductive. Zinc, because it's a metal used in a lot of alloys, is a transformative metal. So they have different functions.
I do think that it would come down to what you are comfortable with, what your intention is. And if you need to just go and find yourself an actual piece of
native
copper, you can do that. I believe it comes down to intention.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have to make a choice about that, or if you can just say, for this purpose, this penny is copper.
Yeah.
For another purpose, this penny is zinc.
Yeah.
That's again what I'm going to say. It comes down to intention, and honestly, it comes down to what you are capable of as far as visualization or imbuing that symbol with the energy
power.
the energy and power that you need for the spell.
Yep. So I just wanted to bring that up because I
think
know
that's
pennies are
interesting.
mentioned in a lot of
They are.
especially older spells that you can find around like in books or online. So I wanted to talk about that just because maybe it doesn't work the same way
Right.
when the penny is not mostly copper. Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
And I do think...
And I think that's going to depend on you. Do you think the power is in the thing or is the power in what you think of the thing?
Exactly.
So we're at the end of this episode now.
Yep. We've got...
And so now I need
Yeah.
to finish up our ending stuff.
Yeah, you got to go through that
Yeah.
whole situation.
I'm just bad at it.
You are.
Like, I need
so
to come
first
up
of
with
all-
like an ending thing
Yeah.
that's a total ending thing.
Well, first of all, you need to remind people about Patreon
Yep.
and Discord and Facebook.
Yeah, I guess we got to cover that stuff.
So you can find us on Facebook
Yep.
at 3 Pagans and a Cat.
Yep.
But because 3 Pagans and a Cat is too long to say or to type in on Twitter, it's just 3_pagans
Yep.
on Twitter. We actually have more Twitter followers than we do Facebook followers.
But
our
more
Facebook,
engagement on
right, our
Facebook,
Facebook
which we
followers are
love.
more engaged.
We love you.
If you want engagement,
Go to Facebook.
go to Facebook. If you just want to see stuff we post,
Go to Twitter.
But we also post it on Facebook, so you don't have to be
You'll
on
hit it up
both.
both
But
ways.
we try to post to both those places
Simultaneously.
simultaneously-ish.
But there are some things that go on the Facebook that don't go on the Twitter.
Right. Now, we also now have, besides a Facebook page, we also have a Facebook group.
Yep.
The group is hidden from the rest of Facebook.
Of the world. It's a closed group.
It's a closed group. So once you're in that group, anything you post will only be seen by group members, not by Facebook as a whole.
So if you are still in the closet,
Right.
that is a safe place for you to chill with other people.
Yep. Then Patreon, which,
We have
by
one.
the way, we got a patron while we were here.
Hey!
Hello, new patron.
Hello, new
Whomever you
We
are.
got a kitten.
Yay,
Got a kitten.
kittens!
Join our pride and
Yep.
become part of our Patreon or our Facebook or our Twitter. It's 3 Pagans and a Cat on Patreon. Then we have our Discord server,
Yep.
which there are links for everywhere over
Everywhere.
all of our stuff. So it's on our Facebook, it's on our Twitter, it's on
on the
our
episodes.
It's wherever you could want to find it, it's there.
Yep.
And the Discord is open to everybody. You
Yeah.
do not have to be a hunter or above to be a part of
The
it.
server is open. There are just 2 channels that are locked to hunters. There's
Correct.
the patron questions channel and the recording channel, which Tally was in earlier and got to listen to part of this live recording.
Right. So you actually get to listen to this as we do it live.
And send us questions.
And send us questions before I edit it all down.
Yep.
So you get the madness and the coughing and the breaks for whatever.
I only
And-
coughed
and
once
anything-
this time.
And anything we cut out during the
Right.
course of editing.
Because sometimes I say stupid stuff during the podcast.
And then it doesn't
and
go
then it
into
just-
the
It
episode.
doesn't go into
Right.
the episodes.
So if you want to hear that stuff, you can be a hunter on Patreon.
Right.
Join Tally.
We also have a shop now.
And Stevie, who hasn't
Oh,
been in the
yes.
Discord. Dear Stevie, who is a hunter, why ain't you in the Discord, though?
Right.
You can come and join us in the Discord.
We do now have a shop. So if you go to the 3 Pagans and a Cat website, across the top is this thing called a menu. Imagine that. And and it's got an About Us, which, by the way, now has cool pictures.
Right. We got icons now.
we got
That are
icons.
icons of each of us, though you can't actually see who we are yet.
They're still cats.
And then there's an episodes tab, and then there's a host tab, and it actually has more stuff about each of us except for me, because I refuse to write anything, and so mine just says car is complex. There's a contact us where you can indeed contact us.
And we encourage you to do so because I'm thrilled every time.
Right, yeah, every time we get an email.
The whole family comes together and we discuss the
Yep.
email.
All the
true.
blogs are on there. Gwyn has services that she offers, and so you can find out about those on the website. You just click on the services tab, and it populates for you, and you can read all of those.
Yep.
There is a calendar. The calendar is more complete than it used to be. It used to
Yeah.
be just when we were going to record an episode or when we were going to post an episode. Like if you went on it today, you would see that we recorded from noon to 2, and you would see that tomorrow we're posting the episode.
Yep.
It'll probably be late, but it'll be up.
Unless
depending
you,
on-
Miracle of Miracles, get it done today.
It's possible, but I'm going to definitely have to take a break in between recording and editing.
But the calendar now has more stuff on it.
Right, so you can also, it also has moon phases on it.
Yep.
It has all of
Sabbats.
the sabbats and esbats on it. And then I have started going in and putting in at least local to us, local being the state of Michigan,
Right.
to us, events that are going on.
Yep.
So whether we're attending them or not, I'm putting them on there.
So that you guys, if you live in our area, because it seems from the analytics that a lot of you are in Michigan.
Yes. Then you will know where these events are. I
they're
did
happening.
put Starwood on there, which we're not going to go to this year. We're hoping to next year, which is in July, and it's in Ohio.
But it's close. It's driving distance.
It's driving distance. It's only it's just south of Columbus. And then our Patreon is
I'm
there.
trying to realize why people tune out at this point.
Our Patreon is there, so you can click on that link.
Yep.
Also, there's one now that says shop. That's our new one. It's the big one. It's the granddaddy of them all.
It's a Redbubble store where you can buy stuff that has our brand on it.
And it's cool. It's very cool. Cool stuff.
It's not just our brand. It does have some
It's
of
true.
your
It's
artwork.
also got some of just my art.
Which, again, is very cool.
Right. But there's all kinds of crap you can buy there. It was the granddaddy of them all just seconds ago. Now it's crap.
Shirts,
Shirts,
mugs,
stickers, mugs.
All
dresses.
with 3 pagans and a cat on it, or with the whole family of cats, or just our individual cats,
or just with photos I took.
Yeah.
the background.
Things I've
for-
drawn, etc.
It's very cool.
So anyway, that's it. We're done.
We've reached the end. And goodbye.
Merry part.
You've been listening to Three Pagans and a Cat. Find out more information at www.threepagansandacat.com.